Right, welcome to Ultim8 Fight Clan. I've got with me today the brilliant, the best, Youri. How you doing, Youri?
It's an honor to
Mate,
be here again.
well, look, I mean, I love having you, and it's been absolutely ages. And honestly, it is brilliant to see you. I haven't seen you for a long time. Obviously,
Yes,
this is the way we converse. I see you on Instagram and whatnot doing your thing, but this is much better seeing you. My friend Youri, absolutely brilliant to see you, mate. How you doing?
yeah, I'm doing well. It's beautiful to have a conversation with you. It's beautiful to be on here and yeah, seeing you smile, hearing you talk. Yeah, we didn't had any deep connections for some time, but I was also very inactive on Instagram. So here I am enjoying the time with you.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Is that amazing? What's that? Sergio Tashini. I like them.
Yeah,
Cool, cool
Takini.
top.
Yeah, 100%. I bought it on a thrift shop like for 20 cents. It probably
Hey,
costed like $60 a few years ago.
that is a brilliant old, like classic retro. Like,
Yeah,
yes, you
no,
know, Tashini, Diodora, Fila, all that stuff is a brilliant. Yes.
exactly, exactly. And I'm sportific, athletic guy, so I only like the those brands, to wear. I always want to be able to do some high kicks.
Well, you can do high kicks though. I've seen it. Right.
Yes, I'm training to become like how Bruce Lee said, you the guy who trained one kick for 10,000 times is
That's
this
right.
dangerous guy,
Rather than what is he? What is it? Something like or so
rather
700
than
different
training
kicks.
10,000 kicks.
Yeah, one the same kick 10,000 times. Yeah. Well,
Yes,
I mean that does actually make sense, right? Because it means that he can master one technique, and if he knows loads, I mean that's good because he's got a more sort of range of moves, but he's not really mastered any of them. So yeah, just
yes,
get one kick is all it needs, isn't it? It's all it takes.
100%. I think you need to. I just recently watched a video about a very nice Russian chini master, and he said you need just one go-to move. You just need Powtran. If you can do Powtran perfectly, and there was a story. The master left his students, and the weakest of the students, he just learned one single move in Chinny, and all other students they knew every form, and they knew the secret techniques. And he came back, and that one student he trained for 3 years, only this one single movement, the fist, over and over again. And when he came back, he beat all other students because he just like concentrated on one move. And when the sparring came, he was like, okay, I just have one move, so I need to do it perfectly. And he beat all his other students. And it's a beautiful
Brilliant.
story about diligence, right? About perseverance.
Very, very much so. Yeah. And it's funny. I'm not saying that he's the first person to say these things, but Bruce Lee is the person that said these things that we all hear because he was so famous, if you like. So
Yes,
maybe there's other people that said some of these things, but it's Bruce Lee because we know him, right? He's so famous. But I'm always amazed at some of the things he says and how long ago he said them and how true they are. But I'm
yes.
sure he got some of them from the old masters, you know. But he's very famous,
Hun-
so
100%. I think Bruce Lee is kind of like an ambassador because he
good
was
word.
he bring it to the West. He bring it into the old cinemas where like back in the 70s, 80s, where like these Chinese trash films they were only in like the Bronx cinemas, right? They're like in America, you mostly only black people watched the Chinese movies because they were like cheap movies, right? So he
Yes,
was like an ambassador for like poor people and people who were like I really love it because also my friends they're all from hip hop culture, and when I tell them a lot of hip hop culture is influenced by like breakdancing and rap
yes,
battles, it all comes from these old kung fu flicks.
yeah,
They're always amazed, and Bruce Lee, he's like an icon for all of us, for all people like who train martial arts or who come
mm,
like from a simple background. And yeah, he bring all that Chinese wisdom to us, because most people, they don't read Confucius or Lao Tzu, right? So
Mm. Yeah.
so he's the guy, yeah, like, yeah, he's like the flagship for Chinese culture.
That is absolutely true. Yeah, he's the, like you said, ambassador was a pretty good word, Yuri. You know,
Yeah.
um, this is a pretty cool stance you're doing. I need to sort this out. I don't have this, and I love it. I mean, it's so cool. You've got this arch sort of where your alcove you're sitting in, and that goes with it. I mean, this is
Yeah,
all Feng Shui. This is all by design. I know you. This is
yeah.
all by design, right?
Yeah, it's just intuitively. I take a lot of care of feng shui. Yeah, it's really
Yes.
important for me. Yeah, I need good energy. I mean, you can see how I have like my beautiful drawings on the wall. This is Rome. This is like South Bavaria, a beautiful castle. Up there is like in my neighborhood. I love like beautiful pictures. It all needs to be aligned. I have my Jesus icon, my Russian Jesus icon. I all have everything's all aligned. I have really good energy. When people come into my room, they're always like, "Whoa, no demon is here. There's no bad energy, no bad mojo." And I'm like, "Yeah, I pray all day. I do qigong in this room. I take care of myself, and those things are way more true than people could believe, like feng shui or good energy, good mojo."
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Because unfortunately, you know, you go outside and there is bad energy and demons. So it's good to be able to come into your sanctuary, let's call it, where everything is settled and balanced, you know, because this is what you need, because there's a lot of crap going on, isn't there? So
Yeah,
you have to
yeah,
keep it
and you
centered.
know, I lived in a temple. I lived two times in a temple. Once for 3 weeks, and once for 1.5 months. And if you lived in a temple, you know how people treat themselves there. And like my Chinese and Buddhist masters, I lived once in a Tibetan monastery in south of France. It's the biggest Tibetan monastery out of Asia, and uh, or the biggest Buddha statue out of Asia, and once in the Wudang Mountains, and with a master and some other students. And I tell you, if you lived in such conditions, you get like, when you come back to this society, to Western society, where people are always like in a bad mood, and people carry themselves negatively and have all this negative self-talk, like Bruce Lee said, or Miyamoto Musashi, the famous samurai. If you talk negatively about, you know, your true power, you limit yourself, and all these things, and having bad energy in rooms, and demons. My Chinese master said demons are so real. If you would know how what people carry around, he said, like, you would be scared to go into the city.
Right. Yeah. I understand. But do you think that in some ways the demons are necessary so that you realize the difference between here and here? And, if you completely eradicated the demons, what would it be like? I mean, do we think it's just going to be bliss and brilliant, or will it mean that people won't have a true understanding of, dark and light? And is that necessary, do you think?
That's a beautiful question, Steve. Like, that's a really good question, because I and my master, we had like similar opinions about this, what I felt intuitively, uh, but also like his teachings, and like Vedic teachings, like Chinese and Vedic Indian teachings. They all say a little bit different things, but they all align in one statement. Like Catholic Church, they all align, all religions align there like perfectly, and they all say they are here because we behave like this. And my Chinese master said most of the demons, and that's what I also felt intuitively, when he told me this, was like an aha moment, when I was like, yes, I forgot about this. You know, when someone tells you something, and you feel it in your soul, right, intuitively. And he said, most demons are humans who could not go into the light, and they just are stuck in here with us, and they would not be stuck if they would have a great life, and if humanity would behave different, we would not have them here. And that's why you have all these shamanic traditions, like from prehistoric China or Mongolia, which are like very similar to Tibetan religion, the Bon religion before Buddhism arrived in Tibet. They're all shamans. What do? They try to send spirits into the light because they feel they are stuck here. And that's what an exorcist in the Catholic Church does, or what my master did in Wudang, you know?
Yeah. But why do we think then? Because obviously there's two sides to every story, they say. And why are we so certain that the light or the non-demon side is the right or the good side? Because the the man or the demon on the other side will surely think that this is the right path and the way to go. What makes them wrong?
Um, I think this what I felt over the years when I was like in a more lighter um or more, how should I say this, like more light filled rooms or energies, when I was like with light-hearted people, you could say, or with high vibrations or good mojo, Jamaican people would say. And when I spend times where like in a depressive state, the big difference is that those depressive thoughts and negative beings most of the time, or people say like they have negative thoughts, most of the time I think it's like we are influenced in our thoughts. And I think that the demons and these negative entities, like, this very deep talk, because my Taoistic time in China was, people don't know that Kung Fu is inherently connected to the shamanic traditions of China. You cannot separate Chinese medicine and Chinese Kung Fu. You know, like from the movies, they always, most of the times, these famous Chinese practitioners, they were also doctors and they were
Yeah,
also shamans. And the Chinese tradition makes no difference between the word "yi" and "yi," which means shaman or medicine man. And they were all like in Indianic North American traditions, medicine men were always shamans too. So I think the big difference between good powers and negative powers is that negative powers, and that's something really deep I learned over the years. I share with you very deep wisdom now. The negative
bring it. This is
beings.
why you're here, Youri. I like it. Oh,
Brace yourself, yeah. Because the negative beings, they don't care for your free will, and that's actually very sad. And I know how modern culture wants to portray Satan or negative entities, or goth culture, or like wearing black things and heavy metal. They want to portray it as very positive and nice, and like a freedom culture, like a rebellion, like the 80s in UK, you know, with all these punkers. And they want to portray this as like a rebellion, as something positive, but
yeah.
most of the time it's like a culture of yeah, the culture of rebellion is not as positive, because um, I think rebellion is, most of the time in rebellion you also destroy the things which are good, because Chinese culture is 100% different as Western culture, because Chinese culture is always about keeping traditions, is never destroying traditions. Chinese people are not rebellious in their nature, never. They're always very meek and humble. They don't dare to rebel against things if they don't know 100% that it's bad for them. And that's the interesting thing, because these bad spirits always rebel, and they don't care for your free spirit, they don't care for your free will. Like, that's why we also say intrusive thoughts, or when you have like behavior which is induced behavior, when you like intrusive, when you say, people, they always say you let your intrusive thoughts win. Why do they say this? Because you have compulsive behavior. Also in neurology and psychology, we know this, we have compulsive behavior. Why? Because there is influence which does not care for your free will. And my master said always, the good spirits and what we would call God or the Tao, the heavenly way, the Bagua, the how the universe works, how it was created by this being, he always said this being cares for your free will. Good powers will never force you to pray. Good powers will never force you to do kung fu. Good powers will never force you to um, to do sports. But my master always said negative entities always force you to eat chips with compulsive behavior, with lust, with you cannot control it anymore at some point. With sports, with laziness, the spirit of laziness, the spirit of depression, they don't let go of you. That's why I can say there's a positive side and a negative side, and it's also very easily morally to argument why one side is true to your soul and tries to lift you up, and the other one tries to control you and pull you down.
Okay, so what you're saying there is that the reason that you believe, or in your opinion, you know that that the light is the right way and the good way and the dark is the bad way, is because you've seen both. You see, you've felt both, which
Yeah.
means you can distinguish the two, and then you can say, right, well, I know how this one made me feel, and I know how this one makes me feel, and so this one is natural to go this way because this one feels right and this one feels wrong. And that's why I'm saying that you need the demon, you need that darkness, you need to have trodden both paths, or at least to have felt both paths, to be able to know the difference, or at least appreciate the good side.
Mm.
That's what I think, so I kind of think they're necessary. But I also want to touch, before I forget, Youri, sorry mate, but I've got to do it.
You summarized that perfectly, and I think we would not need them, but in our state of mind, how society works right now, I think they are sadly necessary. Yes.
Right. And that's exactly right. I don't need them. You don't need them. Yeah. I don't need it. Right.
Yeah.
Because we know. Right. And lots of people know. But we have lots of different types of people. And so maybe they're necessary. The problem is, it means that we have to put up with them as well.
Mm.
Yeah. But it's okay because we're more equipped to deal with them,
Yes.
because we now know. So it's okay. But you mentioned their rebellion, and that it's like a bad thing. However, sometimes I feel you need to have rebellion. So let's say, for example, you have devil creatures at the top causing the problems, causing the darkness. If you just accept and you don't rebel, then you will just let them take over, right? I mean, sometimes you have to rebel depending on what issues are there. You have to have the strength to go against, otherwise you're just going to be trodden on and not be able to do anything about it. The idea of the rebellion, especially with you mentioned heavy metal, right?
Mm.
And a lot of those bands can be, just because of their artwork and the stuff that they display, would be upside down crosses and stuff like that. These are things where people will go, obviously that gives you the judgment, the opinion to go, look, this is bad stuff or whatever. But sometimes if you listen to the messages and stuff, they are, a lot of the time, as you mentioned, anti-establishment. And
Yes.
that can be a good thing, because it gives you other messages, not just whatever. I guess you're saying sort of satanic or anti-Christian messages and stuff like that. A lot of that can be a show, but it doesn't matter, because, as you say, sometimes it depends how people take these things. But a lot of these bands are just very basic, against the man, as they say, anti-establishment. And when you grow up and it takes some time, but you realize how you're being controlled, sometimes you need outlets like that to let you know that, yeah, I don't want to put up with this either. And that's the rebellion. And if we look in history, there's been lots of rebellion against what some people would call, darkness or demon people. So
Yeah.
sometimes is rebellion good if we stay meek, as you say, and not be able to fight back, then we'll be controlled, right?
Mm. Mm. Yes. I think where all these points meet, where we have a convergence, is very beautiful, because what everything you said is very true. First, I want to say there's beautiful, mesmerizing rock and metal music with very uh, like the most of the time we have to think about that humans, we cannot perceive what is actually happening physically, um, atomically, subatomically in the universe. We only perceive 1% of the light spectrum. We can only hear 1% of the sound spectrum. My master said he met people, and he himself, and also I have seen demons manifest in people. He told me this, he showed me this. He saw ghosts a lot of the time, spirits, um, everything, and he met a lot of people who saw this. And this is what I want. This the true. This is actually the real point I want to talk about, because it's not important about the people or what kind of art or music they do. It is that we actually don't know who we are serving with our art or what we do. You know, you could do like in the movie like Karate Kid. You can use kung fu for very bad stuff. Oh, hey, little boy, is it girl or boy?
Yes, girl, Rosie.
Hey, Rosie. Wow, what a beautiful lady. Look at you,
Yes.
girl.
You see, this is Youri, Rosie. I know you wanted to say hello, and there you go. You can
Yeah,
now
it's
say
very good to
hello.
have cats, because my master always said cats keep bad spirits away. Yeah.
There you go.
There
Right?
you go. It's good to have her in our conversation. It's a good sign. It's a blessing.
Right? She literally just walked in. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
She knows. She knows.
She
Yeah.
knows.
Perfect timing.
She felt the good energy, the good mojo. You see, cats, they always leave when it's bad mojo. You see, cats are very intuitively, and cats can see more things than we are able to see. Most of the
Yeah.
animals, they can sense things we are too dumbed down by society to sense.
Yeah, exactly. I guess they are more in tune with the simple stuff, like you say. They just
Yes,
feel the
yes,
energies. They ain't got to
yes.
worry about, oh, I've got to do this or I've got to do that. It's just they
Yeah,
can be totally in tune with things, not distracted by other stuff. Yeah, so they know.
and
That's why it's good
and
to have them, because then we can notice these things and go. And sometimes you do that, right? You go, now look, Rosie's stressed.
yes.
Rosie, what's wrong? And then you go, whoa, it's my fault or the atmosphere's fault. So you change it.
Mm.
Now she's telling me she wants to go out. There you go. He pushed the
She-
door open but couldn't pull it open. Yeah.
yeah. So also another thing I want to say is it's because we don't perceive the spiritual realm. My master said we are very easily distracted, very easily manipulated into things we think are good, or we think where we need rebellion, where we actually don't need rebellion, and we become lame or numb against the things which are dumbing us down, which are pulling us down, but we don't uh, um, yeah, we don't lean up against them, because we just get used to that state of like yeah, of I don't know how you would say that, like of laziness, of like you just accept the status quo. And this is the interesting thing, because humans, we what I really want to say is that we don't, if you don't know the spiritual realm, we don't know what kind of people we are serving, what kind of energies we are serving with, like our emotions or our behavior. Like in the kung fu, like in the Karate Kid, the one guy, he uses karate and kung fu to like traditional martial arts to hurt other people and suppress them, and the other guy uses kung fu only to defend himself and to uh, yeah, change negative circumstances to protect people and take care of people. So that's the same thing with music or singing. You can use it to worship nature and the beauty of humans, and to sing about how beautiful the sea is and the moon and the stars and life and love and romance. Or you can use it to complain and how bad life is and how negative life is. And And I don't like what is also an interesting aspect. I don't even care for the anti-Christian or anti-Catholic spirit which is in the metal music industry. This is actually most of the time very reasonable. We are very disappointed by the church, and that with very good arguments. I am not a supporter of the church or Vatican. I don't. I don't. I mean, it's not white or black. It's also a lot of the times things are very complicated. They don't have clean, easy answers. But what I wanted to say is that we can serve things and do something which seems good, but actually we are not aware of the spiritual realm and how things work there, and actually who is our master, who are we serving. And my master told us, like, we all have to a certain degree influenced by negative beings, and that's why we always argue with our family. That's why we don't treat our parents well, our sisters and brothers, in mind or in flesh, or why we get so emotional, why we say things we would not say if we are angry. And that's why it's really important to have like an anger or frustration movement, like a rebellion, or like metal music, which is an anger and frustration movement. The 80s in London, UK were very like upset people about the establishment, and it became like an anger movement. It were like young people rebelled and were like sick of how things worked. And this is very beautiful, because how you said, sometimes we need the rebellion, and it was very needed, and it was a very good movement. But we need to take care out of what kind of energy, like kung fu, kung fu is very neutral in itself, or a knife or a rebellion in itself is neutral. But how do I use it? Do I have a lot
Absolutely.
of frustration? Do I have a lot of negative things happening there? And then my master always said, like, these demons and these higher um, hierarchical realms, they influence that, and they infiltrate your movements. Like a lot of um, political movements actually got infiltrated, I think.
Definitely.
And yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah.
And we
And if
don't know
you,
by whom. It just happens when we argue. I don't know what kind of spirit comes over me, but it's just like feels like the next day I come back and I say, Steve, I'm so sorry what I said yesterday. I
mm,
felt like something came over me. I don't know what I said. I was so angry. I'm sorry. And there, in these wordings and how we phrase sentences, we also see that sometimes negative, our behavior is not so independent as we think.
you, you know what? That is a very good point, and people should think about that more, because you just don't necessarily know why. But as you say, you're questioning it, and then you just say sorry, and then the person says no problem, that's okay, and then that's the end of it. But like you say, if you
Mm,
just analyze it a bit more, then you can go, well, hang on a minute, why did I do that? Why did I behave that way? And then often you have an explanation for it, which is, well, I was emotional, I was upset, and stuff like that. But like you say, if you keep asking, keep going deeper, you go, yeah, but why? And then you might realize that, yeah, you're not maybe completely in control. It's not necessarily all your fault. Maybe it was your fault, as in you allowed these things to infiltrate you, and you could do a better job of that, not happening, or blocking that. But at the same time, you then need to look at the other side. So let's just say, as you're saying, you're having the argument with someone, and now the next day you apologize for it. You also need to say, well, hang on a minute, I'm apologizing for it, but I was angry with them because they were being an idiot, or they said rubbish things. But then you also have to say, but hang on a minute, if I now realize that maybe I wasn't 100% in control, and maybe it wasn't all me and there was other things at play here, then that is most probably true for the other person as well, which is
mm,
why we can forgive them as well, and say, look, if I was in this position where I had maybe some out of things controlling or having an input on what this situation is, then obviously it's going to be the same for the other person, right? So you have to have a bit of understanding on both sides.
100%. And that's actually, you just summarized in a few sentences the teachings of Buddha and Jesus,
Oh,
because it's all about forgiveness and mercy. And if you understand the karmic, how things karmically work, um, and you just like a victim of circumstances, it's very easy for you to be able to forgive others, because you see like, wow, um, yeah, and we all have like the what's that's actually what Jesus said, and Buddha said, life is suffering. You look at Jesus' life, his whole life was suffering. He was a humble man living with a, like as a carpenter's son, in a small village in Israel, which was suppressed by Roman people, and he was like not good, like, yeah, he was not belonging to the establishment. And look at Buddha. Look, Buddha was probably the both, as I talk about the historical Jesus and I talk about the historical Buddha, like where we can trace archaeology, like not something as a mystical person. And you also see that Buddha, he was, Siddhartha Gautama was probably a son of a king in northern India, close to Nepal. And he was belonging to the establishment and he did not suffer. But when he came to the people and saw how his citizens were living, he saw that life is suffering. And that's what, there's the difference between Buddha and Jesus, because Jesus went through that and liberated himself, and Buddha freely gave that privileged life up. So we need to understand that life is suffering. And if you understand that and you see the beauty in life, which lies deeper than the material world, you can actually free yourself through forgiveness, forgive yourself, forgive others, and you get all this weight off of your heart, right? So this is the
mm,
deepest spiritual teaching you can achieve. Also, is very hidden in Lao Tzu's text of the Tao Te Ching, but that's also what Taoism is based on, and that's why those three religions, they always kind of uh, they accompanied my life. They guided me one after another. First started as Buddhist, later I was very interested in Hinduism, then I came to China, learned about Taoism. My master initiated me into very beautiful Taoistic teachings. I read Lao Tzu before, when I was a young boy in Germany, as a teenager, as an adolescent, and now I came into Christianity because all these deep mystic teachings, they and this is the thing where we can meet as two men, as two souls, because this is where Kung Fu connects the whole world, or the Kung Fu people, because Kung Fu in itself is so deeply spiritual. Even if you don't care for mysticism, you don't need to. It's unimportant. If you practice sports, if you practice martial arts, if you practice sparring, if someone does a takedown on you, if someone humbles you, if someone kicks you into your face, if someone um yeah, if you get humbled in your training, it changes your soul.
of
And
course, yeah.
100%. And this is very beautiful thing about Kung Fu, what I love, and for your listeners, for your audience, because I am a Kung Fu practitioner in my heart, but I know why my soul chose this sport. I know why my soul wanted to go to China, because as a man, it's very important to control your emotions, because as a man, you're physically stronger than most women and most people, because most people on the world, 70% are women and children. It's like 25% or 20% are men, 20% are adult women, and the rest are children. So most of the population is weaker than you. And if you don't learn to control yourself from these negative influences, from your emotions, become humble, become meek, being able to get along with frustration, with negative energy. Um, if you cannot do this, you are a threat to society, and it's just like a question when you are going to explode, because yeah, these that's where all these our conversation meets in Kung Fu and in self-discipline, because
Yes.
I cannot be influenced by others if I have self-discipline. And that's where we come back to our beginning, to Bruce Lee, because he said, if you let people control you through emotions and what they say, you are inherently dependent. You are not a free soul. You are not a sovereign being if you're being controlled. And you know why Bruce Lee knew that? Because he was not only a mystic or a student of Chinese traditions, but he was also a martial artist. And that's where martial arts, that's why we have shamans and Chinese doctors. You cannot separate them from Kung Fu, because both are self-discipline and trying to reject that outer and inner influence and becoming like a true, enlightened, elevated being. What a sovereign, I don't like these words. Let's say a sovereign being.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely right. And this is what but the system we live in at the moment is trying to not have us as sovereign individual beings, like trying to make
Yes.
us all the same and not be our own entity. But you're right about the kung fu and obviously Bruce Lee, because he's the best. So
Yeah.
I agree with that, with the kung fu. But I also wanted to say that with the stuff you were saying with the teachings and the forgiveness and stuff, I feel that I don't have the same teachings as you, as in where you've sort of studied it and become religious and followed these things and used it for guidance. However, I do feel that even without that, as in the traditional sense, I've had these teachings naturally through experience. They are there. So maybe some people need to have it where it's more structured and they go and get taught these things. But I've learned a lot of these things just naturally through being a bit older, having different experiences, interacting with people. So these things that people go, oh, it's religious and blah blah blah. It's like, well, we're kind of doing it anyway. And I learned this now later on, where if someone said to me, "Are you religious?" I'd say no. But then a lot of my ways and a lot of my thinking will be very similar to it without me even knowing, until I speak to someone like you and I go, "Well, hang on, I'm like that." I do. You're right. I do forgive people and I do let them be themselves. And when I was younger, if there was someone that I didn't get along with or whatever, I just go, "Oh, they're an idiot" or whatever. And I'm not like that now, because now I go, "Well, no, they're not me, and we're different, and I don't need to have them impact me so much. All I can do is just go, all right, we're not the same. Is there anything I can pick up or learn from that person? Is any of this me that's causing this friction? Or am I just brilliant?" And now I've looked at it and go, no, it ain't. It's not gonna. There's gonna be things that are down to me. So I'm much better at looking at myself in these scenarios and going, well, maybe some of this is my fault, right? Rather than just say this person is rubbish. And not only that, if I then come to the opinion of, look, we're just not the same, we're just chalk and cheese. Okay, well, it doesn't mean we can't get on in other ways, but if I truly feel that we can't, it's okay. I don't have to dislike the person. I don't have to let it bother me. I can just create that little bit of distance between us and say, look, maybe later on the paths will realign and we will reconnect again. But I don't let the things like you said about the words and stuff like that, I don't let them have such a I don't give them power anymore. Whether it's the person, what they've actually done, which I can consider they've done me wrong or whatever, I don't give them the power anymore. And the same with what they say. It isn't easy because we grow up with the basic sticks and stones. Will hurt you, but names will never hurt you, or whatever, right? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt you. That is true. But when you go home and someone's called you a name, and then your mum tells you this, look, don't worry about it. They are telling you right from a small kid. This no big deal. Don't worry that the person called you this. Don't worry about it. It's very difficult when you have these young emotions and peer pressure and stuff like that, which I was never really bothered about things like that because I watched kung fu films, so I had a very different outlook on stuff. It's true though; they give you different lessons. So
Yeah.
with this stuff, I'd now realised that it's my fault if I give these people the power. I'm giving you the power. If what you've just
Hallelujah.
said has affected me this much, then it's kind of my fault or partially my fault. It doesn't mean that that person is good. It doesn't mean they haven't purposely tried to be horrible or nasty to me, but it's down to me to
Amen.
decide how it affects me. I've learned that with, just through experience.
Wow. Beautiful. Thank you for your knowledge. This
Well,
real wisdom. This real wisdom straight from your heart, Steve. From your big heart.
yeah, I
Yeah, it's
appreciate it. Yeah,
beautiful.
thanks.
And we can do a more moralic experiment here, because why does it feel like this is very important? And I did the experiment for myself, and everyone should do that for themselves. Why does it feel so good to do good things? Why does it feel so? Why does it give us such a deep peace if we can forgive? Why does it change our nature in a positive way when we just, love people? And why does it touch ourselves so deeply if we get loved? If everything is biomechanically, biochemistry, and we can explain everything away. If you don't have a benevolent, loving being which created the whole universe, which set into stone that love is the highest rule, that positivity is what that being strived for, and it created everything out of love, out of unconditional love. And I think a lot of religions try to understand that, and a lot of philosophies, like from Platon, ancient Greece, or Lao Tzu, to Jesus, to Buddha, to our modern day philosophers, to Renaissance thinkers. We all deeply feel that if this interesting, because for me it's like 100% argument for God, that you cannot have this universe. And I mean, I don't even need the evolutionary uh, chemistry DNA arguments for, like, um, we say in science and scientific debates, like uh, I forget sometimes these words. It's very hard for me to think academically in English sometimes, because all these
Wow.
topics,
Take
they're
your
hard
time,
to
Youri.
talk in. But it's very important that we understand that science didn't figure everything out, and science has still a lot of questions, and they can't answer these questions. Even though media and TV tells you they can't. I'm at a university. I look deep into scientific biochemical debates um, about evolutionary standpoints and everything. But I don't want to go into these topics too deep, only if you want to know about them. But I love this. I love to see the facets and the fabric of the universe, and try to figure things out. And for myself, also philosophically, because in experiments and science, how I said, we cannot figure things out. We are very in the darkness still. We didn't explain 1% of the universe, but scientists know this. But media portrays it as like we know 99.9% of the universe, but we actually don't. But we can do moralic experiments for ourselves, and I see that benevolence is very um, supported, even though in this negative world and metrics and establishment, benevolence and good behavior is punished. But in our heart, in our souls, it is encouraged. And negative behavior always, like this term became so normalized in our language. Oh, that was karma, bro. Karma is a
Yeah.
bitch. You know
Mm,
why? Because people feel that shit. And
mm,
we know that things happen to us because of purpose, and
yeah.
things are not random in their nature. How science wants to explain us, everything is randomness, and things became out of chance, and evolution and the Big Bang, it was all out of chance. You know, the chance that uh, that the lightning strikes me on a clear day is higher than evolution. So that not evolution itself is very logical and very easy to explain, but how the first lipoproteins got created, how the first amino acids got formed, to create the first cells is scientifically by chance 1 to 10 times 10, so it's in the billions. So but moralic experiments can show us and explain us easily without being scientists that there is a higher philosophy, there's a higher nature, a higher complex working facet fabrics in the universe. And Chinese philosophers knew that. That's why that's why Lao Tzu tried to describe Tao. That's why he tried to describe there's a universal way how things function. And if you don't align with that universal path, the Tao, you get smacked by the Tao. And if you align with it, you get you get you get blessed by the Tao. And that's exactly how karma works. That's what he wants to say. And that's actually how the law of Moses works for Jews or for Muslims or for Christians. If you behave and listen to the heavenly way of God, you get blessed. And it's very easy and it's very perceivable for everyone. If you are an atheist, if you are a new ager, if you are a Hindu, you can see that there's a higher complexity behind this atomic structure. And it's not just molecules, they have an alignment and they have a purpose. And yeah, it's very beautiful for me to perceive that. And to think about it, to contemplate about that, because most people, they just accept life as how it is. But if you reflect on your life and how crazy life sometimes can be with coincidences and happenings and meetings.
Coincidences, right? I'm not sure about them anymore. I'm not sure about coincidences no more. There's just way too many, or I recognize them too regular now that I go. And now we actually say it. By the way, I know this isn't a coincidence, but this has just happened. You know, my close people around me would just say the same thing now. It's like, oh, here's another not coincidence, right? Because they ain't. They ain't. I mean, I do think that does exist on some level, but most of them now I go, well, it's just not. But it's an easy way to explain what you mean. Oh, this coincidence, and the same as karma. It's another word that's created as an easy way to explain something that is totally natural, that is happening not by chance. And I think it's very, very natural to, without being taught, very natural to be nice to people and respectful and whatnot. And then you only have to do that for a bit, which I think is easy because I think it's natural. Then you feel what comes back your way, and then you go, okay, this is obviously a good thing to be, right? Because of what you get in return. Even the most miserable person, you can change them by, you know, same as the five elements, you know, the fire, water. I noticed that a lot of the times that when I felt, you know, especially with another guy that I worked with, you know, he was often saying to me, he wasn't saying it in these words, but when there was problems, he was telling me fire. That's what he was telling me. Use fire against. He wasn't using these words, but I translated them for myself. Someone is using fire on us, and he would go, fire. And I'd say, no, we must try water first, right? To see what reaction we get. I know you feel angry and stuff, but again, it's your fault that you feel angry by this. It doesn't mean, it don't mean that you can't feel something about it, but you don't have to express that. It's an internal thing, and go, right, now take some time. Do not react instantly, because that is emotions, right? And you will do and say things that maybe you will say the next day. I always said to him, do not send the email, write it, put your emotions down, what you feel, write it out exactly how you feel right now, then put it in the drafts, and then tomorrow morning open it, read it, and see if it's still you, and see if you're still happy to press send. If you're still happy to press send, then by all means press send. But let's see. And I rate him because he's a very fiery person, but he is also a very close friend. And he didn't say to me under those emotions, "Oh, get lost. I'm going to press send. I'm angry." He never said that. He went,
Mm.
"Okay, I'll try it." Because he's trusts me. We're friends, and he had somebody there that while he's shouting, that wasn't shouting. I was totally calm. We are in the same boat. The thing that's happened has happened to both people, but I was behaving completely different to him. And I would have to reason it out with him, saying, "Listen, don't think I'm not annoyed about this. Of course I'm annoyed. I'm not telling you this person is good. I'm not telling you what they've done is good. I'm saying we just need to take a step back,
Mm.
relax, and then decide the best way to deal with it. But we must
Mm.
try water first to see what we get in return. We're not going to get walked all over. Maybe we end up using fire, but man, it was rare. It was
Mm.
rare that you needed the fire, right? Because you could come to some understanding. And sometimes this was a tricky one because at the end, when you use the water and then you come to some kind of understanding, you had a new emotion to deal with. And the new emotion to deal with after that was that you felt like his words would be mugged off. You felt like someone had walked all over you. You felt like someone had taken advantage of you because instead of fighting them back, you used water and they went, "Oh, there you go. He backed down. Now we've got what we want." And I'd have to say to him, this is difficult because there are times I do feel like that. I do feel like I've backed down. I do feel like I've walked all over. I do feel like the person has now taken advantage of me. Said, I feel the same. You mean you feel the same?
Mm.
But it's how you perceive this. Did we get what we wanted? No. Is it a mutual thing? This person will feel like that. And I know we used to call it a chair spin, okay? An office chair spin. Because
Yeah.
someone told me about it once. I had a friend that worked in an office on the phone in another place, right? But he's a friend, but he was working in a place. And he said, when you gave in and gave him that price, this is what my friend told me because he was in the office with this other guy. So I was on the phone doing a deal and I gave this guy this price. And he said, he spun round on his chair with excitement, right? Because I broke. That's the way he saw it. And he went, maybe you shouldn't have. He's my friend. The other guy's my friend. He's on his side, as in company wise, but he's on my side, personal. And he said,
Mm.
I'm sitting right here. Did you just give him a good price? I went, well, I gave him a better price. And he said, well, he just spun round on his chair. And he never liked, and I didn't like it. I remember I was younger at the time. I didn't like it. I went, damn it, he's made a fool of me. And that's why me and my friend would always say, we've just used the water and now the guy's done a chair spin. I
Mm.
said, okay, I understand. It does hurt that little bit, but that's on that person for thinking, for being like that and treating you like that and wanting to have one up on you, have
Mm.
beat.
And this,
That's up to them,
yeah, and this
tough.
like this very, yeah, it's tough, and that's very interesting because there we like meet the points of our conversation earlier. Um, those are for me the intrusive thoughts, uh, which do not belong to my soul, but there are those thoughts who try to convince you that your good behavior is bad. Those are for me my demons I try to fight. And that's where we can see what I said earlier, or what you also said earlier, that we live in a very toxic establishment, in a very uh, I don't want to use this Christian terminology, but we live in a inherently evil world. I mean, nature, you look at it, it's beautiful and it's merciless, but it's beautiful. It's symbiotic. It works. Even though the lion kills the gazelle, there's still 20 gazelles on one lion. Why? Because nature knows you can only have one lion for 20 gazelles. If you have it the other way around, it does not work. So everything, even though it looks brutal nature, it's very harmonic and things work perfectly. And humans, we don't play in this rule set anymore. We're too powerful. We became like God. We became like gods, like
Yes.
how it is written in the Genesis. We were very close to the angels. God made us in His image, but we misused that power. And we now live in a society where, yeah, we can make conscious decisions. We are not instinct based anymore. We are not instinct driven. That's why
Mm.
Buddha and Jesus gives us so much responsibility, because we are not like the animals. Like, that's what karmic Hinduistic philosophy says. We have way more spectrum than any animal. We have therefore way more responsibility. And I say that's why we can see that we live in a non-natural world. We don't live in the Tao anymore. We don't live in the ways God tried to extrapolate the universe. We live in a way where we like very cut off from the natural law, and
Yeah.
where good behavior is punished, and
Yes.
where people walk over you if you are merciful, where people mock you uh, if you have high moral standards, if you don't um, uh, align with pickup culture, if you are young and you don't care for drinking and partying, and if you
Right.
don't care.
Yeah. You get if my brother never drinking, I was never drinking, and all the way through, even into adult life, we was given the impression by everyone around us that this was a bad thing. Now it has changed a little bit. You know, we find that the attitude towards it is a little bit now. If you tell someone you don't drink, you get people saying, "Oh, good on you, well done."
Yeah,
Back then, like, you get a lot of more. Not
yeah,
always, but I'm
yeah,
saying you never got that.
yeah,
Now you
yeah,
get that sometimes where you
yeah,
say,
yeah.
"Oh, really?
And
Oh,
yeah, 100%. And I
no."
think
Back then,
it's very like it's with every kind of, we go back to our, that's why Jamaican Christians, they always say, back to the roots, because they know the Tao, you
yes,
know. In Jamaican philosophy, even though I don't align with them on everything, it's very mystical and Christian in their nature, and they know that we have the perfect way planned for us, and we go to the wicked Babylon, and we follow the old ways of these god kings and how they treated society as slaves, and we are in that program somehow still captured, even though we have democracy, but we are in a mental prison. And uh,
yes,
we put ourselves in there because we are conditioned, and society reflects that condition and blames it back on you. If you break out, if you try to break out of those conditions,
mm,
you are the idiot. It's like with
yeah,
sports. Oh, you're an extremist, you do everyday sports. Oh, this guy, he gets on my nerves, he's always this hypocrite, he always like, oh no, this moralic apostle, or you become spiritual, and the people are like, ah, he's kind of a hippie. Or you start eating organic and you start feeding yourself well. Oh, this like a nutritionist extremist, or he's this extreme vegan guy, or for veganists, I eat meat. Oh, these meat eaters. Like everyone has their conditioned beliefs, and if you break out of those, you are the idiot. And I experienced that my whole life, especially now. I experienced that before, but now I experienced that. Where I experienced it the most?
tell me.
Not when I went to China, not when I became a Buddhist, not when I started training Kung Fu, not when I changed my lifestyle. The most hate I got from friends and people is when I turned a Christian, when I got baptized and I started talking about God.
Mm.
And that was the craziest. Uh, uh, th- that was
Realization, yeah,
realization. That was like illumination. I was like, whoa, okay, so the whole life you get from this toxic society hate for breaking out of it, and now you get like for the decision you just made out of my heart. It was not a political decision, it was not a religious decision. I just fell in love with Jesus as a human, as a being,
yeah,
as an idol. He's a beautiful man. He had the highest moralic compass. He did not do bad things. He tried to take care of all of his friends. He healed thousands of people, even historians. If you look at history and historians and archaeology, the one thing Jesus is famous for is as a healer and as an exorcist. So the only things he did was freeing people from disease or from demons. And then you kill him. And then you hate him. and you persecute him, and you persecute all the people who follow him, and you make fun of the people who still stick to him in a modern time where you have no moralic compasses, where you have no spiritual solutions, where the Western society is spiritually as dry as the desert, where we have no. And if you go then to, and people ask themselves why we go then to New Age, or why we go then to our shamanic Celtic traditions, or why we start searching for Kung Fu masters or martial arts schools. Why? Because we need that hierarchy. We need that compass. We need that system which helps us to navigate. And this society gives us a navigation system which is inherently toxic and self destructive. And when I left that shit, I became the idiot. And I was like, bro, your life is going
crazy,
down
right?
the drain.
Yeah.
And you be like, okay, this guy gets healthy, my eyes are shining, my skin is well, and my life changes. And people are like, oh no, you have the bad lifestyle.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful. For me, that's like also kind of it ensures me, because I see
Evidence,
society.
proof that you're doing the right thing.
Yes, because I see society is getting more sick, and when society starts to hate me, I see the Albert Einstein quote in front of my eyes. He says, like, it's not a good thing to be adapted to a sick society. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It's true. It's true. It's mad the way that it actually shows you through these other people. You said something that, I mean, very well spoken, Youri, and completely and utterly an enlightened person, right? Because you see through the stuff that for some reason there are these blocks, these barriers that are there to, well, look at the way the people around you, the people that care about you the most, are telling you that this is rubbish, yet, but they're seeing your successes and they're telling you that it's wrong. And the problem here is, you mentioned earlier something like they're conditioned opinions or beliefs, was the kind of the phrase you used. And that's important because you use the word conditioned. I don't think that they are actually their natural beliefs. They are what's fed to them propaganda wise and what is fed to them. And you recognize that when you start to realize that everyone is the same, and they don't actually truly, not everybody, but a lot of people don't truly have their own opinions. You must make the decision to switch
Yes,
this stuff
bro.
off,
Perfectly said. Yeah, they
right?
don't have their own opinions. Like
Now,
we
look,
we rarely have our own opinions. All our opinions are made by the information we gathered, and most people don't try to gather information. They just take what they're fed. They don't look things up. We just take the reality as it is.
now somebody could counter argue that and go, well, you don't have your own opinions either, right? Because you've turned to Jesus and whatever, and you need this. But as you said, you only needed that because you needed clarity with all the crap. So you had to search for something else just because you knew naturally this isn't right. And this is the bit I can't understand, that people, this is all happening to them, and they can't at least just take 1 minute to decide, does this feel right? Does this feel correct? How I'm being told, you know, right? Does it feel right? Because if you just take a minute and switch everything off, stop listening, and just switch it all off and go back to the roots, go back to the nature, which works until we involve ourselves in it and ruin it. That's what happens. It works anyway. It all works. The only reason that there is not cures for this, that, and the other, because we created all this other crap. We don't need any of it. If you just left it as it was, we'd all be fine. If they can't take a step back, please stop listening, clear your mind for a bit, do a little bit of meditation, whatever you need to do, which they can't do because obviously they're distracted with other stuff. Ask yourself a simple question, right? Yeah, of course, right? Ask yourself a simple question. Is what's going on around me right? Does it feel right? It might happen on your lunch break. Go and sit in the park and sit with pigeons. Instead of saying the pigeons are rubbish and they're flying rats, I used to say to my friend, "What do you mean it's a flying rat? Why aren't you the walking rat then? Why is that a flying rat? Right? It's true though. Why? Right? It's out of order." I said, "This is a creature. It's just walking the street like you." I said, "I love the pigeon. It walks the street like I do." I said, "I love the pigeon. Go and sit amongst the pigeons, right? And just have a think about it and switch off for a minute. And you will realize that when you go back to that desk or sit back to that desk or you turn that telly on, whatever's on there that is feeding you, that it don't make sense. It don't make sense. It don't make common sense. Right?
Yeah.
Just ask yourself, give yourself a minute, and then you'll know. And if you can't do it, then I appreciate that these religions and stuff, they are there, those structures are there, so that people can go, well, let me try that, see if that will give me some clarity. That's not a bad thing. I'm going to consider myself lucky that at the moment, I don't need that. But you know what? I'm glad it's there that I can turn to it if I do. Yeah, maybe when I'm older, the door is there. I can walk through it. I don't really feel like I need that now, but that's because I've already stepped outside. You know, I already realized. Doesn't mean I can't learn more, but as I said to you, a lot of this stuff you tell me is happening naturally for me, but not for everybody. So people just need to stop and have a think about it, and then just make. It's a very easy decision to make as long as you stop listening.
And that's very interesting what you said, because I have a few arguments for that. Because the Jewish culture is all about that. I love Jewish religion and mysticism, and as most people probably know, if you call yourself a Christian, you also read the Old Testament, and the Old Testament is actually neither Christianity nor the Old Testament is Christian. Jesus was a Jew. He taught Jewish things. He had because people always hate about Christianity. Christianity is not Christian. It does not belong to us. We are, how do you say that? If you copy a culture, there's this modern term, not cancel culture, but when people blame you of you copy a culture and you misuse it. Like,
oh my good, a cultural
no
appropriation.
We all, huh?
Like cultural appropriation. That
right.
That kind of thing.
Appropriation. So we are just we just are adepts of another religion, and I see all the Christian and Christianity hate, but first things first, I was not raised a Christian, because people always say how you said, you also get your moralic compass, you also need your guidance, and you also just believe what you think, but the thing is, we all believe what we think, and you cannot break out of that, and there's a good reason for that, because if humans create their own moral, that's the whole story of Jewish culture. If humans try to make their own moral, like Adam and Eve deciding what is good for them instead of listening to that benevolent being, to that hierarchy, to the Tao, they break out of the rule set. And what happens? They get punished for it. They need to live in nature. Before they were living in the Garden Eden, that's like a metaphoric thinking, We lived in tune, one with nature. And you see all these saints, Russian and Greek saints, in the ancient times, and there's still some today, like my master in China, and they don't know each other, told me that some of them could meet lions and could meet mountain lions and bears and wolves, and they would not attack them, like in Garden Eden, like that story of Adam and Eve. They lived so close with God, with the natural ways of the universe. They were not they had no surface for any negative energy. They were clean. They were in tune, you would say.
No reason to ruin what is working.
Exactly. And they were so in tune that even other predatory beings would not see them as victims. They saw them in that hierarchy above them, how it is in Vedic culture, in Indian culture. Humans are the highest, most angelic being on earth. We are so that's what written in Psalms by David. Why did you put us below the angels so closely? Who are we that you make us like angels? This is so beautiful because and this is the thing, because we can learn from all cultures, but the grass is always green on the other side. So I turned to Buddhism because I didn't accept my own German culture, I didn't accept my heritage, I didn't like my roots. But after I studied, the Aboriginal Book of Dreams, after I read the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, after I read hundreds of philosophical books of Greek, uh, like I didn't read all through them, and I cannot analyze them perfectly or summarize them perfectly, but I was so keen as a young boy to understand different cultures,
Yeah.
because I always thought the grass on the other side is greener. But
Mm.
understanding that our own culture, and that you who came into the industrial age, Africa, China, who had the Renaissance? Muslims, South African people, Jews? No, Europeans. And we hate ourselves, and we get
Mm.
all the time that framing into our brain. It is white supremacy, it's
Mm-hmm.
white people are
Yeah.
the worst, males are
Yeah.
the worst. But the solution to the world's problems were always by white males. That I want to say that's something good. I don't want to, but even African friends of mine, they said like we lived in misery and we didn't change that. And we didn't want it to change it because we were in tribal wars for decades, for hundreds of years. And the thing is, funnily enough, white people were the same. We Celtic people bashed our heads for thousands of years. We didn't change shit. But one day, Christianity arrived here. And we learned, because our culture, me as a Germanic, and from Germanic ancestry, biologically, probably Scandinavian, Slavic, mixed Middle European man, we had blood feud. And we killed each other because our grandparents uh, had an argument. We don't even know what it was about, but we still killed each other and killed our sons. Blood feud was so normal in Europe. And when there comes a religion with a guy who says, forgive each other and love your enemies, that changes you profoundly, bro. That changes you profoundly. And I don't fucking care who that guy is. I'm just very grateful that his religion arrived here and changed us, because Europe would be still in the shit state like all other continents when we were in the Middle Ages. And we were through Middle Ages in a dark age, but even though back then we built the most magnificent buildings, the biggest kingdoms, the longest,
Yes.
like uh, Roman culture, Greek culture, they're all gone. They're all gone. Where are they? Where's
Yeah.
Sumerian culture? Where are the Egyptians? And you see, since society turned atheist, because the one thing I don't want to say for people that Christianity is the only solution. I just want to say it's equal to all other religions, and we mock it a lot, and we
Yeah.
don't care. And Hollywood and music industry is only allowed to mock that religion, and we should think about that.
That's
And
right.
that
Yeah.
should make us contemplate, why do they
Mm.
hate Jesus so much? They don't hate Muhammad. They don't hate Moses. they don't hate Lao Tzu, bro. They don't hate Buddha. They don't hate Ganesha. They don't hate any other god of 15 billion gods people believe in, except this small guy in the desert who had actually no power, was not a king, had no, like, this was the weakest. The Jews were, for most of the time in history, the weakest people on the earth. They were nothing. They were a desert tribe of analphabets. They could not even read, they could not even write. They were poor people. And this is the interesting thing, because Jewish culture is all about leaving that Tao, leaving the law of God, leaving the law of Moses, where it's like about morality, that you even treat slaves well, that you make war with high moralic standards, you take care of your enemies' soldiers when they are wounded. And they're very complex stories about how moral works, or jurisdiction, how you uh, pursue juristically people, how it should be fair. You should have several eyewitnesses. That is all written into a fucking book in the desert, 2000, 1600 years before Christ, when we had
Yeah.
no, where we had
Mm.
like this. We need to understand that all religions are nice, but we underestimate our own culture, and we underestimate the power of of the Jewish Torah, the Tanakh. We don't understand the Old Testament and how it changed our modern thinking, the modern way of thinking. And that's what you said, and that's what I think is really interesting, because in the Old Testament it is written because God was betrayed so often by the people. He created a loving, benevolent universe where all beings have enough place, and then we come onto this planet and kill each other. And he'd be like, whoa, I give you high moralic standards. I reveal myself like Krishna did to the Indians. God revealed himself to the Jewish people. And sometimes God only reveals himself to a single person like Lao Tzu, but sometimes he reveals to a group. For example, like Indians with the Mahabharata, with Rama, with Krishna. He revealed himself to whole people. And he did the same with the Jews, I think, 100%. And he showed them this, how he wants the earth to function, and they betray him, and they betray him again, and then they betray him again, and then they betray him again. And you be like, why is the Jewish people, the Israel culture, the most hated, the most persecuted people of most persecuted bloodline in the whole earthly historian, in the whole history?
Yeah.
Why are Jews always the boo man? Because they have a certain connection to that Tao, and they betray the Tao, and they get smacked by the Tao.
Right.
They get smacked by
Okay.
the heavenly ways. And
Hmm.
this is the interesting thing, because and one day, God is so fed up with them that he comes to one guy. His name's called Isaiah. And Isaiah, he talks to God, and he's like, I don't want to live with these people anymore. I'm a Jew. I hate them. I want to be like Lao Tzu. I want to go into the mountains and pray and spend time with you. I'm sick of these people. It's very funny because we both relate probably to him, because we are the Messiahs of the modern days. We are sick of how the society works. And
Yeah.
then God tells him, he's like, I have this law for you, like the Vedic scriptures of India, or like Lao Tzu. He says, I have this law, the Torah, the book of Moses, but you don't listen to it. So I will create a new kind of people, and I will write the law into their hearts. And there we come to your point where you say, so when I break out of the matrix, I break out of my conditioned self and I reveal my true self, I'm going to find out that these things are written into my heart and that they actually intuitively feel very good. And this is also an argument Jewish, for the Jewish Israel, the God of Jacob, Abraham, and Moses, because he predicted that there will be a time, and very interestingly, there are many prophecies by Indianic tribes of North America, native tribes of North America, where they predict that there will come a new age of people where their heart is clean. And that's actually what God said in the desert 1000 before Christ. He said, there will come people, their hearts will be clean. I will write my law into their hearts. They will understand the Tao in other ways, in Chinese words. They will understand the heavenly ways, and they will change society. And yeah, we are now here, I think. And that's why you said it's so easy intuitively for you. But also, we don't need to understand, don't need to forget, even though we grew up as atheists or didn't like the church or just went to it when with our grandmother,
Yeah.
90% of our moralic compass comes from society, which is heavily influenced by Christian thinking and Christian philosophy.
Hmm.
And our moralic standards heavily come from the beautiful relatives in our families, like our grandparents and grandfathers and grandmothers, who were inherently Christian and who grew up with Christian values. So if we have a nice heart, it's most of the time, even if you don't want to accept it as European people, because of our Christian roots. But people
Yeah.
hate to hear that. I'm sorry
Mm.
to disappoint you. It's not the answer you want, but Christian culture changed society so much that we have prisons. We don't kill people who make negative stuff. We don't uh, kill you because you steal. If you steal, you get a money fine. You don't get killed directly. We take care of people even though they're psychiatrically sick. Back then in the time of the Jewish age, people who were mentally sick, they were just abandoned. Now we take care of people. We try to re-socialize people. We have orphan houses, like orphanages. We have
Yeah.
hospitals. Where people think they come from? They come from monasteries. They come from
Mhm.
Christian abbots and monks and sisters. That's why you call this like it's a sister in the hospital. Why? Because all 99% of all sisters 80 years ago were Christian. How do they call a female abbot, a female monk?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't care. It's
Asking
a
the wrong
sister.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. That's where we got all our culture from. And I have all religions equal, but it's very important that we as Western people, I went to the East and studied everything there, and I came back not because I blindly believe in something, but because I proved it. I checked it. I hated the Bible. I hated the God of the Jews. I hated because I thought they were the reason because society was evil and dark ages and religious wars. But if you look all into it, it's actually not based. There's no arguments for that. And if you really think the Vatican represents Jesus and give me a second, I need to get a charger. Sorry for my full on rant, but when I get into this topic, there's so much truth which needs to be outspoken and so many things which are not seen by society. It is like, yeah, this like,
No. No
this,
problem. This is good. This is good for. It's good for you. Whether other people want to hear it or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's still good for you to express and say these things because it's therapeutic for you. I love listening to it. So yeah, there's no problem. I'm learning lots as well. So I appreciate it because there's a few things there that you said in that last little section there before we got cut off. Um, People need to again question if somebody or an entity or whatever it is putting so much effort and energy into telling you to do something
mm,
um, that's they're so intent on you should do this, you should be like that. um, this person is bad, this person is brilliant, and if they put so much energy into that, and you just said this when you were speaking there, you got to question why, because you said it about Jesus. If people are saying he's such a bad guy, and all these other gods ain't, why? And that's the same with anything in life. You must question if someone is so intent to make you do something or believe something. you, it doesn't mean it's wrong, but you have to at least take a moment to pause and go, "And why are you so intent? Why are they so intent on making me think or believe this, or that this person is the way to go, or whatever it is?" You got to ask yourself. They're putting so much energy into convincing you of something. It's not natural behavior, that,
mm,
because naturally we would do the right thing anyway. We know this, right? So if
mm,
someone's trying to convince you do this, then you have to ask yourself why. Also ask
mm,
yourself, who is telling you these things?
mm,
Where is this source coming from? Where is this information coming from? Do they care about you? And what have they done previously to prove that they have your best intentions to heart?
mm,
Because if the answer is nothing and they don't care about you, then it's probably best not to trust what they are telling you,
mm.
as this is what you should do, should believe. So people should question it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
very well
that's
said.
something what you brought up there when you said that, they can persecute this guy. And you said, why though? Why are we okay persecuting this guy? Why? What are
Mm,
you scared of? Normally that's what it
yeah,
is. They're afraid of something.
yeah.
And
And
this is
that's
going to
like
be taken not just religious into anything that you're getting fed
100%,
to you.
100%, 100%, because I did that my whole life with my nutritional behavior, like society sells you something and they try to hate on on certain things like raw milk or a high meat-based diet or vegan diet or Vedic diet. It's all something stupid and for nutritional extremists. But if you see society wants to sell you something, you see society is sick, they probably want to sell you something which makes you sick. And if you, I mean, I study health management and health sciences, and the whole, um, yeah, um,
There's a reason, and
I mean,
it's not very
if you think in a pharmacological sense, you want people to be sick. You
correct.
want people to be patients.
It's
If I
business.
have like a whole society based on multi-billion-dollar industries because we are capitalists, and capitalism is nice, I think. Capitalism is a nice way to bring people into like a development mindset, and everyone is like in a small competition but a nice and healthy competition. You have very nice system which is working, but if you don't have this competition anymore because you have already 100 corporations as the multi-billion-dollar industry sorted out and the small business cannot compete anymore, the whole sense of capitalism is gone. And people hate on
Totally.
capitalism, but there is no capitalism here. Error 404. No capitalism found, bro. Because capitalism is based on competition, and we don't have competition anymore. And
No
then you have this
competition.
multi-billion. Yeah, and what's the same for me with nutrition as with my religious behaviors, because most of the time my body got so conditioned into having cravings I actually don't need. And I started questioning these cravings. And
Yeah.
when my body said no to things like um, garlic or ginger or turmeric or other kind of roots or moringa or bitter foods or herbs, I was like, why do you don't want to eat this? If there's a lot of academic research and articles about how healthy these things are. And I was like,
Yeah.
maybe we should question what we find naturally or unnaturally, which gives us discomfort. And that's the interesting thing, because I experienced the same thing, this discomfort in my soul, this inner rebellion I felt with my nutrition, the same as I see with me and others when I just mention the word Bible or I just mention the word Jesus. It becomes such a toxic, unnatural thing to us that we rebel out of it and we start hating. Just when we get these words, it already becomes a disgust. You be like, oh no, not again a Christian. And be like, don't talk about this Jesus guy my grandma told me my whole childhood. I don't want to hear about it. I get your point, and it's 100% true, because we are inherently disappointed by the church, and it's 100% true, and we should be. And the church is still doing stupid stuff until today. But it's very interesting that we have this discomfort inside of ourselves with many things which could be healthy to us, which could give us a new way of thinking, which could give us a new lifestyle, like sports. Every lazy person hates sports. That's their first reaction to it. But it would be healing. Every person who is mentally in a prison, they hate philosophy and new age and spirituality, because they are conditioned into that it is good for them, even though this the sad thing, because psychologically science found out that the brain does not care for danger. It just cares for things you can identify. So if I can if I eat chips all the time and my body knows, okay, it has that bad effect on me, but I can calculate the effect, it's better than changing my diet because I don't know the effect. Or I just sit lazy around and I have heart problems. And when I stand up, I get dizzy, but that's my lifestyle, I know. But when I go into the gym and blame myself, that creates that anxiety. It's like the same with, and it's very logical, because if you look at the evolutionary standpoint, why we think about positive things which could change our way, because we're hardwired from evolution. If we are like two cavemen and we both go on to hunt, and you say, okay, we go left because we know this way, and it's safe, even though there are wolves there. We saw the wolves, we counted them, we know it's 7 wolves, we know they live in that cave, and we can calculate. And I say, let's go right, and we both like have an uncomfortable feeling. We both like, maybe we should not go right, because there could be 2 mountain lions there, and we don't know where they live. So your brain is hardwired to rather take the danger, and accept your negative, shitty life, instead of going a new way, which could actually lead you to some bushes of raspberries and a beautiful creek, and a nice where we can find some wild boars you can eat and hunt. The humans don't want to take a new way which challenges them and puts them into a new perspective. We hate that. We hate new perspectives.
Yeah, it's called the path of least resistance. And yeah,
Yes.
this is like you say, is very damaging. But this is the path they want, because that means that you're in that system. And as you said,
Yes.
with these pharmaceuticals and stuff like that, these multi-billion-dollar industries that you mentioned there, this is the problem. We've given that power because this life is revolving around the strength and power and importance of money. We made money valuable. We made money the thing. We shouldn't need any money, nothing. We shouldn't need anything, but they make you need it, which means you have to carry on slaving and working just to give it all back to them. And then you need it, as you say, because then you need, you're whatever, eating the crap, not training, whatever it is, not looking after yourself, and then you have to eat the tablets or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's all by design. It's all on purpose. It's all
Yes.
part of the system, and it is difficult to break out of it. There's no doubt about it. It's very difficult, but
Yes.
you just need to recognize it and then take small steps gradually
Yes. Yes.
and see the benefits, and then you will continue down that path.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why spiritual leadership is so important. And we got we got robbed of our Celtic culture by the Roman Catholic Church, and then later we adapted to the Christian culture, and now we denied the Christian culture, and we don't have any moralic philosophical compass. Because if you try to break out of this system, the first thing you feel, as someone who realizes these things and sees conspiracies and sees how pharmacological agenda works, how the media um, ownership concentrates more and more, how you have this asymmetry of power, how you have these multi-billion-dollar industries which have total control over the BIP, over how your country makes decisions, about your prime minister's decisions, how the country behaves, because there are certain pressures from single individuals. This is very scientifically proven. And if you understand this and you break out of it and you see these lies and you see what kind of bullshit ingredients are in your food, how
Yeah,
your water with this chemically cleaned up system, like your how they treat water,
yeah,
how they treat nature, and you
yeah.
see
Milk as
all
well.
this, the
Yeah,
first thing which happens to you is you feel very sad, and you feel very lonely, and you feel very hopeless. And that's why people always strive for this mentor leadership thing, why people always uh, give money and buy courses and have these idols and gurus and philosophers, like especially new age and spiritual uh, um, groups, because, or like we have it for martial arts masters, and we need this. And most of the people, they try to uh, they will misuse that and try to gain profit from your uh, disappointment, from your that you are disoriented and that you feel lost, and that this, because one thing is You can either go with the system and accept the flow, or you go against the stream and you be like, okay, but now what is the next question? And that's when you dig deep. Then when you go into the rabbit hole, because like now I want to know everything, but then you are lost. And that's why it became so early spiritual, because I searched for guidance. And I had in my teenage and my adolescence, I had two friends of mine. I don't know them anymore, but God bless them. I hope they have a good time, a good life. I know one of them has a lot of trouble psychologically.
Yeah.
I don't see them anymore, but they were my best friends back then. And we were sitting in the garden, smoking blunts, sitting in the sun, praying all day, meditating all day, reading teachings of Buddha, because we felt that when we think more and more about this, we got more and more depressed. And we got into a loophole. And this is the next karmic trap the devil sets for you. First, it's the society, and when you break out of society, he wants to trap you with that hopelessness. And that's why I personally think that I don't care what religion you follow, I don't care what you do, but you need to have spiritual leadership. And you need to have spiritual leadership which is clean, by someone
Yeah.
who deeply has your interests in your mind, who, like a Kung Fu master, I knew my Kung Fu master, I could trust him more than my father. Because my Kung Fu master, he had inherently, like deeply, philosophically, objectively, the best intentions for me in mind ever. He wanted me to be as clean, as healthy, and as strong as I could be. When my father wanted me to do this or that because he didn't fulfill that, or he had his traumas, or he had this and this. So
Yeah.
my we need the spiritual leadership. We need like clean, objective person. And I tell you, you can search that everywhere, but it's very rare to find earthly gurus or gods who do not want things from you, but who command you instead of love you. And this is where, um, yeah, Buddhism and Christianity, why it's so rising in popularity, because these two guys tell you, no, there's unconditional love, and you are loved, and you should love yourself, and you should forgive yourself. And that's where all my hopelessness vanished, where all these demonic attacks went away, because they cannot stand negative energy, cannot stand love. They hate the power of love. And the power of
Yeah.
love, it
Correct.
sounds cringe, but it's very real.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, well, I mean, obviously, we can go on forever, and I can't not um, talk about that point that you made there, because I think it's very important when you said that once you become, I don't know, let's, for want of a better word, enlightened, or think outside the box, or whatever,
Yeah.
like you said with your friends,
Mm,
you've decided that you're going to go down this path, and then you go, now what? That
mm,
that bit, as you say, there's that period where you're not supposed to be doing that, so it tries to get you back. And that's very, very an important point you raised, because it can be overwhelming, and it's because it's so against the grain and so what you're not supposed to be doing.
yeah.
It can be difficult to keep it up, to continue
100%.
down that path. What's your advice to people that have got to that point and then gone, it's not worth the fight, it's too difficult?
Uh, you need companionship, and you need leadership. And you need to find a good Kung Fu master. You need to find a good martial arts school. You need to find companions. You need to find a church, a community where you can trust people, where you can talk about your battles, where people can pray for you, where people can encourage you, where people can uplift you. And if you don't have these people, like I had my two friends when we started this, we
Yeah,
all three thought we were crazy until we were talking about, like, bro, I think 9/11 was bullshit. And they were like, the things I read tell me you are right. And we were like, yo, okay, let's do this and talk about that. And we were like, whoa, we are not crazy. We independently sensed all this bullshit. And some people, they just have a really good bullshit radar. Beep, beep, beep. And my bullshit radar is now on point. It's clean as
Good.
fuck. I
Yeah.
swear. I can sense bullshit from miles away. Bad gurus, people who try to misuse you, people who have bad intentions with me. God tells me, the Holy Spirit comes into me and tells me, stay away from that person. And you have that too. We call it intuition, but it's
Yeah.
actually our soul connected to the Tao, to the Holy Spirit. And you have these feelings, and people unlearned to listen to that. And this Holy Spirit is the best companionship you can have, 100%. This intuitive feeling which comes from above, because most of the times intuition, it comes into you, and you get like this download of a full thought process. You don't have to think about things. You just get this aha, this mental lightning, boom, it comes into you and be like, oh wow, now you have a solution to a whole problem. Not just one single step, but you have a whole solution, a packet, you know?
Yeah.
And this is the intuition, and comes from the Holy Spirit, and it's the best companion. Jesus said he is a companion, and he gives us the Holy Spirit as long as he's not here with us. And if you train that intuition, if you get better at it, and if you listen to your spiritual, holy, or you can also say it in this new age way, your higher self. I think the higher self is the most true, clean part of us, which is connected to the Tao. And you can tell, you probably see, you could probably and most of your viewers, listeners, we can probably all sense that uh, people like us is very hard to put into a box. And
Mm.
especially for me, because most of the Christians, they don't like any spiritual stuff. They hate me for that. They think I'm a Satanist, or I'm a witchcraft shaman. And most of
Yeah.
my
'Cause it gives
spiritual
you
friends,
it gives you a wider viewpoint. You know, it gives
yes, if
you
you have a
more
wider
scope.
viewpoint, or if you take other religions and cultures into consideration, and you give
Yeah.
them some credit, and you open room for debate. And this is what a lot of Christians actually do, especially at universities.
This is the
And a
best.
lot of, yeah, and a lot of academic Christians do that. Uh, but most simple thinkers, like 90% of society is, they don't like that behavior of opening your mindset.
Mm.
And it's the other way around for my spiritual friends. My spiritual friends were like, oh, now he's getting frigid, he's getting stuck into this slave Christian mindset, he's
Yeah.
getting back into the dark ages, he's following the wrong religion of rules and rules over rules, and you have this dark I mean, I get hated by everyone because I don't fit into their boxes.
Mhm.
My kung fu friends, they think like, well, what do you want with Christianity? Why do you train MMA? Just stick to the kung fu stuff. My MMA friends, they think I'm a retard because it's study traditional martial arts and it's useless. It's the bullshido, and so everywhere I get
Mm.
hated. So I need a companion which can go with me this walk. And everyone who has this struggle, they need a companion where they can open their heart, share their problems, and the other person does not laugh about it. And I know for me personally, that's God. He never, when I pray, he never complains about me.
There you go.
He never disencouraged me. He's always like, I pray. He doesn't talk. I don't hear him talk, but I know that he's listening, because the next day I meet someone who has the same interests, and he shows me I'm not alone. I'm like,
Mm.
who? That's how my prayer life started. That's how I started meeting God, because I believed in the Tao, and I prayed to the Tao. I prayed to the universe, and one day I realized, oh wow, this universe is not dead. It's not unalive. It is actually very emotional, and it has a lot of humor. The Tao has a lot of humor. My master always said, the Tao, if you're aligned with the Tao, it makes you laugh a lot of the times, because you'll be like, oh, maybe I am not as stupid as I am. And you sit in the forest, my master sit in the forest, and we sit with him together. And I got this realization. I'm like, maybe I'm not as stupid as I am. And then a butterfly lands on my hand while meditating. I'm like, wow, the Tao has a lot of humor.
Yes,
And
there you go.
yeah,
So that was real. The butterfly landed on your head.
yes.
The
I mean,
butterfly did land on your head, did it? Butterfly.
yes, a dragonfly.
Fantastic.
Sorry, a
Love that.
dragonfly. A
A
dragonfly.
dragonfly, sorry. Yeah, dragonfly.
Yes,
Yeah, brilliant.
yes. And things like this happened, and
Mm.
coincidences. I was in my
Well,
garden once, and I came back from a wonderful night. I was at a house party, and my friends, they were getting all drunk, and then I get this conviction spirit, which tells me, go home. And I'm like, wait, it's the most beautiful time of the evening. I'm like, why should I go home? There's a beautiful girl smiling at me. My friends are all getting drunk. Uh, why should I go home now? And the spirit told me, go home. My
yes.
intuition, it was so clear. This voice was so clear. And I was not a
Yep.
believer. I was not even deeply into any religion. And I felt the spirit. And I went home. I got on my bike and I drove home. And then this the sentence from my father, like this, there's a German saying, but it's probably known all around the world. Always quit things, or no, always leave when things are going the best. Like when things are working out, take it and leave. Don't play another, like we can see it like as in a casino. You win, leave. Don't play for another round and lose your money. Take the best situation and leave. We always say that in German. Wenn es am
Yeah.
besten ist, musst du gehen. So when it's the best time, just leave. And I left. And I was sitting on my bicycle. I was like, I had this beautiful evening. People listened to me. I had a lot of fun. I learned something new in a conversation. I listened to a lot of people. I smoked a joint. I drank 2 beer. It was beautiful. I stopped when it was perfect. I left the party when it was the perfect timing. I met that beautiful girl, and I went home, and I was on my bike, and it wasn't the summer, and there was a storm coming, and I felt like it's going to start to rain. I felt like the fun, like I felt the electricity in the air. I swear, it was crazy. And I drive home and I was like, oh, home. I was smiling and laughing. I was screaming. I was laughing out of my lungs on the bike at the way home because it was such a beautiful time in my life.
Yeah.
And I got blessed because I started meditating, because I started contemplating, because I started journaling. I started changing my lifestyle. How I said, I got blessed by the Tao. The Tao received my worship. And it answered me, and my life got more beautiful, and I met more nice people. And I'm on the way home. I'm like, okay, if it rains now, I don't care. It's warm, it's summer, it's July. So I cycle home. I put my bike there. I go inside of the house. I'm like, no, I don't want to be inside. It's warm. If it rains, I want to stay outside. But I was like, oh no, I hate wet clothes. So I stay inside. Then I was like, I all got this intuition all night long. This spirit, this voice was so strong the whole evening. It told me everything what to do. And then the spirit told me, take off your clothes and go out. If you hate to be wet. So I went into my garden, took off all my clothes, and I was like, okay, now it can rain. I opened my arms. When I opened my arms, it started raining on me. And it did not rain like a single drop, it came out of buckets.
Yeah.
And I was standing there, and the rain was warm, and then it became more cold. And I was standing there and was like, no way. I just opened the whole time it didn't rain. I get out, I say, okay, now I'm ready to receive. Started raining. I went on my knees. I started. First time in my life I prayed. Nobody ever taught me how to pray. Nobody ever taught me that there was a God. Like my parents never pushed anything on me. My parents are both raised and baptized, but how we all got baptized as children in Europe, nobody cared for it. And my
Mm.
parents too. We maybe went to Christmas on church, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes. And I was there in the garden, and I share the story for you and your viewers because I want to give people hope, because I want to tell people we are not alone. We are not fighting this war alone, because there are evil forces, but we have the most powerful beings on our side. We have angels, we have God, we have the Tao on our side, we have our ancestors on our side. And I stand there and I start crying and I get on my knees and I'm like, who are you? What is this shit? Why? Where does coincidence come from? And I hated coincidence all my life because I was, as an atheist, I loved physics, and physics does not allow or explain coincidence. There's no coincidence. And this was too much for me, like this, feeling the power of the force of nature, and how, like, seeing, like, you think about a red car and seeing a red car, that's coincidence, but you also already know, wow, okay, that's a sign. But this with the rain, being naked, going outside, opening my arms like I'm Jesus, like I'm getting into a prayer, like I'm a Jew or something in the Dark Ages or BC, opening my arms, and it pours on me, and it felt like God washed me. It felt like what people talk about a baptism. It washed
Natural
me
version.
clean.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I started crying. It ripped my whole ego apart. I was like, what is this? And now I tell you the craziest thing. I went on my knees and I said, I don't know who you are. I don't know how this universe works. I try to figure it out. I cannot. The best scientists cannot. But I see that this universe is alive, that nature is perfect, that things are perfect, that I'm totally surprised how my life works out, that I am blessed as fuck. And I don't know what to call you or who you are or even what you are, but I feel you listening. Something is listening there. And I don't know how to call you. If I should call you Thor or Odin or Ra or Buddha or Ganesha, or I don't care. I don't know what kind of name I should use for the millions of names people gave you. The millions of names people gave you. I don't know what to call you, but I can tell that you are alive, and it is an honor to be alive. And when I said this, I don't need to swear because my word is true, and I always try to speak the truth from what I know in my heart. We all are wrong sometimes, but I try to, from my best conscience, tell you everything out of my heart with a true tongue. A lightning struck 5 meters next to me. And
Wow.
when I finished that prayer, first I opened my arms, it started raining, I finished that prayer, and the lightning struck. And I can tell you, if a fucking lightning, people can test me, because if fucking lightning strikes next to you, the fear of God is put into your whole soul, into your whole being. If you
Yeah.
see, if you see a lightning close, you are deaf, you are blind, I could not hear for 20 seconds. It was so loud. I only heard this flashbang sound. I had
Yeah.
like a tinnitus. Whee! I was blind. It was raining. I was disoriented as fuck. I didn't know where I was.
Mm.
And this was the first experience in my life where coincidence was so brutally honest with me that I could not just stamp it as coincidence. It was
That's
impossible
right.
for me. Uh, and I tell you, we don't need these profound experiences to understand that life is a blessing and that life is alive and there's something happening, and this something is watching and taking care of us. But I tell you, to you and your viewers, that I had these experiences, and that's why I had these decisions to go to China, why to search for gurus, for leaders, why I turned to religions, why I started reading these ancient wisdom books, why I started reading the Bhagavad Gita in the Bible, because I had these profound experiences. And I can tell you, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in Him. I know that He is alive. I know Him. And that's crazy. And no, I think I'm privileged because most people cannot say this. But
Mm.
I know that He's alive for a fact. I experienced this. And this shaped me for my whole life. And years, I forgot that experience. I put it away. I'm very ashamed of that, because I was ashamed of that experience and I thought I was crazy. Do you understand what kind of inner soul conflict this is? This pulled me apart for years, Steve. This
Right.
this made me crazy, because I always, my mind, physical conditioned mind always wanted to put this away as something which didn't happen. But now that I look back on it, I was like 20, 21, 19, 18, 19, something around about this. And this now like 7 years ago. And I had multiple of these experiences. And I don't even need to share it to tell people out of my heart that things like this are very true. And we underestimate the power which created all this beautiful, magnificent world. Hallelujah.
Well, listen, and just to clarify, this is the same. This happened. This is the night when you was spiritually told to go home.
It told me to go home. It told me to go home, to be ready when it starts raining, to put out my clothes and sit before him like a humble, disencouraged small grain of sand I am in this fucking universe. I am an ant. And if you experience lightning strike, you see how fucking powerful nature is. And I tell you, a lightning strike is nothing compared to a tsunami or a being which saw the stars create. A lightning strike is a poop compared to the power of a storm. A lightning strike is a storm is a poop compared to a tsunami. And the tsunami is a poop compared to the rotation of the earth. And the rotation of the earth is a poop compared to the sun. And the sun is a poop compared to gravitation. And it goes on like this. The power of this being, which was able to create a room where all these stars can form, this is the most beautiful mental exercise you can do.
Yeah. Well, like you say, most people have to have faith, but you actually know. And that's brilliant. I really, really appreciate you sharing that story. And I'm glad that you now feel like you can talk about it and you know, you're not something that you want to put away. It's actually part of who you are. You know, we have no idea what would have happened had you stayed at that party. We just don't know, you know, we don't know.
Yeah.
But you went with what was natural instinct, which was to leave. You know, so
and
then
this
you got
natural
this.
instinct, we need to retrain that. That's what I want
Yeah.
to say earlier. And I told you this story because it's about companionship and about conviction, that you have this deep in your heart, and that everyone has this in their heart. They just need to follow it, and will lead you to the most beautiful, profound experiences in your life. Hallelujah.
Yeah, and I think that's important because what you said there about you, I asked you, you know, what would you tell people, and you said surround yourself with people who feel the same or have similar thoughts and stuff. You actually said you don't need humans particularly for it. You know, you use other entities for it, but you can't go too far down that path. You've got to still remain yourself, because if you surround yourself with too much of that, I mean, you know, it's brilliant advice, right? Because you need some sort of support for the way you think and feel about things, to make you not feel like you're crazy or you're going down the right path, or the path that you feel is right. Always trust yourself, of course, but you don't want to get too involved with too many people surrounding you with this stuff, because then you end up not being yourself. You must continue to question everything and continue to be yourself, and not just you rely or trust on what whoever it is telling you, right? Which I quite like, because you're not relying on humans for your what do you want to call it? I don't know. I can't think of the word even now, Youri, and I speak English. Yeah. Right? Guidance. Yes.
Yeah, because we are imperfect. I know for myself, and you know for yourself, that we can be like the nicest person you want to have around yourself for one day. On another day, you are a betrayer and jealous and angry. And you need to take care who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. If you have a person you can surround yourself with to talk about conspiracies, perfect. And if you have another person to surround yourself with when you do sports, perfect. You don't need one person for everything. If I have the same, if I want to talk about my faith problems and my considerations and how I think about philosophy, I go to my Christian friends because they're beautiful philosophers. They can talk all night long about the nature of humans and how we work and how we condition. And if I want to talk about conspiracies or nutrition, I talk with a friend who's like full on into getting out of the matrix and eating steak again instead of sausages and eating clean beef instead of bullshit processed meat, and only eating beef. And I go to him if I talk about nutrition. And I go to my Kung Fu friends if I want to talk about Kung Fu. And
This
you
is
need
it.
to have your companionship.
This is why you're the best religious bloke, because you are, but you're not. And you've said that earlier when you said that you use spirituality as well. And sometimes the religious people say this isn't good because you only need this. But this is evidence of you, Youri, staying true to yourself and being yourself and not going down, I don't know, like a cult sort of path where you're controlled and you have to do this, you have to do that. You're not like that. You can still think for yourself. You're still a free thinker because you express and you look at other things and you try and learn from everything.
Yeah,
This
and
is
that's
best.
so, bro. This is the funniest part because actually, this is so funny because actually one of the only religions which clearly mentions you should question the whole teaching and the whole person. Like you always have like a leader of a religious movement, a historical person, like Muhammad, like Jesus, like Buddha. But
Right.
the only religion in the world where this religious leader tells you to question him is Jesus. Jesus
Really?
says in Luke,
I didn't
yes,
know that.
he says, everything I say unto you, you need to question and think for yourself. And this is really crazy because the funniest thing for me is that if we
You're getting told off for that, but the leader of the religion is telling you to do that.
Yes, 100%. And it's so crazy because if we connect blindfoldedness and believing with blind faith and
Yeah.
following something out of like this, a stupid imitator mindset. It's most of the time people connect that with are Christians. You connect that blind belief and that stupidity and that sheep behavior to Christians. Even though it is the only religion where the religious leader said, but Muhammad never said question me. He never said question the Quran. He said, if you don't understand the Quran, read the Bible. That's what he said in Surah 58 or something, or 53. Don't nail me on this. But also Buddha said, if you want to understand the world, take these 4 truths I tell you. So he says, if you don't believe me, you are wrong. If you imply it, but it is an implication. He says, follow these truths and get enlightened. Follow this and get enlightened. And Jesus says, question what I say unto you. Prove it with your heart. And if you want to prove a person, be alone with them. Be one-on-one with them. So you can prove their heart. He always says about, because where did Jesus live in? He lived in a time where there was already a church, blindly believing what their ancestors and forefathers told them. He lived in a Hebrew culture where the Hebrews blindly believed what the Pharisees, the bishops told them to believe in. Instead of reading themselves the book of Moses and interpreting it for themselves. But this is the crazy shit. And the thing, the concepts we have about Christians and Christianity is heavily wrong if you start reading the Bible yourself. You see a totally another Jesus, and you see a totally another Christianity. Not from Christians. I think all of my Christian friends, they there are very beautiful imageries of this Christ conscious love, spiritual people would say, of this compassion value, but they're also not flawless. They also have their problems, and they judge a lot, and they have their strong opinions, but that does not make them bad. But giving people a wrong feeling about questioning their authority, Jesus Christ, is very stupid, because that's what he wanted us to do. He himself told his apostles, his 12 first followers, to question him and to not follow him blindly, and to only follow him if they completely, like, he never forced, in if you look at the apostles, he never forced someone to follow him. He just told them, okay, you did this and this, I show you something different, come follow me. He never said you need to follow me. He said come. And you know what they all did? They had this intuition and were like, I should better follow this guy. He's fucking intelligent. And even though they knew the people hated him and he got persecuted very early on, even though then they didn't leave him. And you need to just think about that. We spend time and we have like 10 other friends, and I start a movement. And when that movement gets dangerous and the government starts persecuting us, how many people you think will leave our movement? Probably 10 out of the 12. Probably everyone would leave the movement. If people tell you get arrested for that, or you I mean, some people won't, but a lot of people would. And this is the crazy thing, because these 12 guys, they didn't leave his side, even though they knew they would die, even though they knew their guru, their rabbi, got killed. They didn't quit. And that's a testimony in itself to how loving and how nice this guy needed to be.
Well, there's a strong message there about, clubbing together, sticking together, believing in things. And you're right, they give you consequences. And these guys, I don't know these stories, so I like listening to them. But you can apply them to modern society.
100%.
These guys had ultimate consequence of believing in this guy and following this guy, and they still did, which, I can't say I would, right? Because I don't want to get mashed, but it's kind of like that now. You feel like you've got to toe the line.
I wouldn't. I think I wouldn't get killed for a movement. If you go on the streets and I have children and I have a wife and we go demonstrate against the establishment or against the vaccination or against something, anything, or against the state or government or I don't care, against whatever you want to demonstrate, and they start shooting at us, bro, I leave that shit directly. They start hanging people, I'm out. But if you have something like the French Revolution, where the people know if they die for that, they will change billions of lives. You probably see? Die.
So we're back to the beginning. Revolution can be good, right? If you need change.
100%.
It's just the way you go about it. If you're gonna use the revolution to go and loot a shop and get yourself a new pair of Nike trainers, that's crap. That's not what it's for.
Yeah, look at Black Lives Matter. You have these demonstrations in Serbia now for weeks, and the Serbian people didn't destroy one store. Nothing happened. It's peaceful demonstration. Yes. Look at Gandhi. Look at these movements. French Revolution, you need always to compare the reactions to the circumstances. And I think the circumstances were dire, but a lot of bad things happened in the French Revolution. A lot of people got killed who were not even part of the establishment. It was blind hatred, and things got out of hand very quickly, and humans are very stupid. And look at Jesus, his revolution. It was a silent revolution. He was just walking and preaching, and millions of people followed him. And in 80 years, 2 million people out of 30 million people who lived in the Mediterranean Sea identified themselves as Christians. That needed to be a very strong movement, and it changed Rome for their life. They always say this King Emperor Nero burned Rome, but it's not true. Here, there were a lot of Christian demonstrations in Rome against Nero and against Emperor Nero. And people don't talk about that, but historians know that. And many historians are very convinced that he burned Rome because of the Christian demonstrations. But people don't talk about that. The establishment hides things like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's very crazy. There are a lot of historical facts who actually prove way more things about our culture than we would like to admit, because we think we are bullshit. The Western life is bullshit, so everything we did was also bullshit. But look at the Renaissance. We would still live in caves, bro. Like phones that we can talk, that people can listen to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Western society is amazing, but we became kind of a germ. We became a virus.
Yeah, because of the arrogance. That's why we became arrogant with it.
Yes, we should stay humble. Like what Jesus said, if you want to lead, you need to be the lowest of all of them. I don't know how to translate that. If you want to be the leader of a group, you need to become the most humble guy. You need to become meek and stay the lowest. So he said the first ones will be the last, and the last ones will be the first. Why did he say this? Because all the people who now live in the perfect conditions, living in Monaco, having a yacht and eating caviar all day, these people are inside of themselves most of the time very depressed and lonely. And they will be in the afterlife the last. You don't want to be like them. Trust me. If we die, we get our karmic stuff, and they will be the last. And the ones who lived humble and poor and had a hard life and gave up on things, on material things, and just cared about their relatives and friends, the ones who served are going to be the first ones. And that's what he said. If you want to be the first one, you need to serve. If you want to lead, you need to be a servant. And that's very it's very unorthodox.
Yeah, it's like a contradiction. It kind of like, well, hang on, but I'm the leader. It's like, no, but to be that, you need to know this. Yeah.
And that's very logical, actually.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's very logical.
Yeah, because then you know what you need to do, because you know what it was like there, in that position. So it means that you're going to treat people the way you know is necessary, because you've been on the other side of the fence, getting treated like crap or whatever. Yeah, so it's right. Like you say, logical.
100%. And that's how I said earlier, God said, I'm going to make a people which the laws written into their heart, because my masters in China, they were like this. They cooked for us sometimes. They were the masters of the school, but they were looking after every one of us.
You see,
when someone was slow, they were behind them, pushing them, motivating them, bringing them to bringing them above the horizon they were able to see, breaking their mindsets and helping us to rise to new great heights we were not able to strive for or dream of, or were not even able to think we were able of that, and it's very crazy, because I saw that everywhere, in very humble people, and the best of my masters and the best of my gurus. I saw they were servants. So there's not a certain kind, but very much truth to that. And I proved that word of Jesus, like he said, prove me wrong, try to see if I'm telling you the truth. And I saw that. And it's crazy. And that's where this whole thing closes, because I think everywhere you will go, if you have a true and humble heart, what kind of religion you will study, you will always find God. You will always find the Tao. You will always find what is meant and true for humans. 100%.
Yeah.
It's if personal. You have a true heart.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the story In the Rain?
Yeah.
You said you took all your clothes off. Was it everything? Was the pants off as well? Was the sack and piece out a
I
lot?
was bare naked, bro.
Yeah, right.
I was I was naked in the rain, in the summer rain. It was evening. It was yes.
And your mum and dad never looked out the window at that point?
Everything was aligned. I was alone. I
It
had
was all meant to be.
my parents were out. My sister was not at home. Nobody. I was everything aligned. The stars aligned that night.
Well, that's right. Well, it was absolutely meant to be. So,
Amen.
yeah, given the chats that we've had, Youri, I've decided I'm going to leave it on a couple of points. One is where we were discussing about feeling like that we're not allowed to get along with each other, not allowed to be nice to each other, actually forced in the opposite direction, which doesn't feel natural. And with the kung fu guys and these kung fu movie guys, obviously we meet up with each other sometimes, and we keep in touch, and we go to see films and stuff. And when we do this, we congregate and we mix like you should, and we all feel this when we do these things. We feel it, and we've started to get a very close connection, a very close bond. And a friend of mine, Rodney, he reminded me of this the other day, and he sent me a photo that I used on a thumbnail to one of my videos. And so obviously I also like this photo, but he reminded me of this photograph, and he said, "This is why this photo is the best." His words were, because the seated cigar man doesn't want this, right? So, and I've got the photo here. I'll bring it up on the screen, and this is the photo, and it's just a photo of people. That's all it is. But to the people in it, it isn't just a photo of people. That's me, Kevin, Rodney, Tarek, my brother, and then in the Shaw Brothers t-shirt at the end is Peter.
Wow.
And he's right to, like I said, I use this photo as well, so he obviously knows what I think of it as well. But and I reposted it on the Instagram. I said, Rodney's reminded me about this photo, and he's right to bring up this photo, because this is us saying this is what we know is right for us. This is what feels, natural to us. This is reality, not what you're told to do, not what you're told to behave. We know we are all told to not get on with each other. We know this, but naturally we do this. This is how we gravitate, and it feels good, man. So yeah.
Yes.
So that's that photo. Is
I saw it on Instagram already. I think a few weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
You were watching a kung fu movie that night.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And but this is right, and this is real.
And this is the thing. You either culture connects you or culture separates you. But that's only a decision out of our hearts. If I'm a UFC guy and I decide to hate on traditional martial arts, that's in my evil heart. And if I'm a kung fu guy and I'm like, oh, these modern martial arts, blah blah blah, that's the wickedness in my heart. And if I'm an atheist and I hate Christians, or if I'm a Christian I hate atheists, or if I'm a vaccinated person I hate unvaccinated, or I'm unvaccinated and I hate vaccinated, it's our decisions. You're very right. And actually our nature is to come together.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just proof of it. That's why I say go out, have your own interactions. Don't let people tell you it needs to be this, or you shouldn't like this, and you shouldn't like this person and that person. Do reality, and that's reality. That's what we get through actual. That's the real thing that happens. That. So go off not what you're being told. Go off your own interactions and your own experience. And that's it. Yeah. Now, one other thing, Youri, is, again, we were chatting about Bruce Lee. So in the time when we got cut off, I went and looked up a quote that I wanted to read out from
Sure.
Bruce Lee. Yeah, and we will leave it on this. And I think it's definitely the right quote to read out based on what we've discussed today, or a lot of the things we discussed today. And it's honestly expressing yourself. It is all Bruce Lee now. It is very difficult to do. I mean, it's easy for me to put on a show and be cocky and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like I'm pretty cool. Or I can make all kind of phony things. You see what I mean? Blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, now that, my friend, is very hard to do.
Yeah. God bless his soul.
Yes, he's brilliant. Isn't it so true that to express yourself honestly is a difficult thing to do, or people find it difficult, and it just shouldn't be?
Yes.
You know? Because you said each time you express yourself honestly, you get people telling you, telling you off, whether it be, oh, I'm a religious bloke, but I do spirituality as well. No, rubbish. I do some MMA. I thought you was traditional. I do traditional. No, this is better. Each thing that you have, when you express yourself honestly, you meet resistance. And the best thing is that it doesn't matter. You do the Bruce Lee method, which is, it don't matter. It might be difficult to express myself honestly. It may be a tough thing to do. And he's admitting this is a difficult thing to do, but you should do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And that's what I try to do too.
100%. And that's the secret of being yourself, even though nobody is around. That's very deep, because most of the time we change ourselves when we're around other people. And that's why I said a moral compass and spiritual guidance and spirituality and religion is so important, because it will give you a compass which won't change, which won't break. Your moral will not change because it's a different situation. And Bruce Lee expressed that perfectly, because it is about being yourself and not getting into this cocky feeling because people like you and laugh about your jokes, or you don't become silent because people don't like what you say. And I used to be both. And now I'm just always bold. And I am who I am with myself. And this is so liberating. And I only have that because of the higher moralic compass which is put into myself, because I now firmly believe in things. And even though that people like it or they don't like it, it does not change me. And that's a privilege. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I understand that. I feel the same here. Sometimes I'm very grateful for that. And they say another one that crops up sometimes is about, money. And if you become rich, a lot of people, they go do wild things, go mad or whatever. And but really it shows you up. It shows a true reflection of who you are. So when me and my friends were talking about this, and would say, what would you do if you was rich? What would you do? And I listed off the things I would do. And my friend went, exactly the same as who you are now then. So basically it wouldn't change. You would just do and be more of you are now, because that money gives you the freedom to do more of that. But it's the same bloke. And that's so the same when the person does rubbish stuff or whatever, when they become rich or have money to do whatever, you're still showing a reflection of who you are.
Yeah. This is very interesting. There's this beautiful I don't know if you know them, the Zhao Ao Gay one, and he's called in China the Aoli guy. He's
Okay,
like
I don't know if it. No.
he's a very Chinese meme. He's a very famous Chinese meme, and only a few Chinese memes break the internet because they have their intranet and work in their own social media space. But there's this one famous Chinese guy. He broke the internet and became famous. He's maybe I.
I was just messaging you.
Yes, it's very interesting because some Chinese memes they break the internet, and this guy is really cool because he's famous for he's motivating speeches, and I can send you a link or a picture you can give your people or something because a very nice German YouTuber. He's making video game reviews, but he lived in Shaolin Temple in China, and he trained kung fu, and I really like him because it's rarely that people do like kung fu and he's just doing video games like you reviewing movies, he's reviewing video games, and he's
Yeah.
very famous in Germany, but he's doing it in English. He's a very good guy. I don't align with him on everything. He's called Ranton, like Anton with R in front of it. And he does sometimes also reviews on Chinese culture and Chinese memes. And I can really, probably all of your viewers, your Kung Fu movie viewers, are uh, heavily into Chinese culture and enjoy it a lot, not only the movies, not only the martial arts, but Chinese people and behavior and culture. And there's this famous Auli guy, and he's so cool because he's really himself, and he got on Chinese TikTok like 20 million followers, and he could easily be with sponsorship rich as fuck, and he's not, and he doesn't care, and he doesn't do any sponsorships, and he
Love it.
don't want to take the money even though he's poor. And
Love it.
I found it a very beautiful example because that is very, very rare. Very, very,
Very,
very rare.
very, very rare. I love that.
And you would probably love him, and I give you the link to the video. Your viewers will enjoy it.
Yeah, do it.
It's a very good video, very good research, and you will understand a lot about Chinese culture. And he has also a video about his 3 years in the Shaolin Temple and how to go there. If you want to
Mm.
go to the Shaolin Temple, where to apply, and if your viewers have questions on that, how to get a visa or what kind of kung fu schools are good, they can also message me. You can give them my Instagram. If they want to learn something, where to find good schools, where to find good masters, if they want to go to China and learn some kung fu, I'm here to help, and 100%. And
That's
also for
brilliant.
spiritual questions.
Yeah, but we'll do an episode on that because we always end up chatting about other stuff, you know. So we haven't
Yes.
really delved that much into exactly what you did at the Shaolin Temple and how you got there and all that. So we still got that stuff to do. So we'll do an episode.
Yeah, they're more important topics.
Yeah, no, I get
And
it. I
I
get it.
think I think if we summarize it today, I think we went through Chinese mysticism a lot, and everything I said, even though it seemed sometimes Christian or other stuff, it is very based on. It's not my Chinese masters thought like this, they behaved like this. They were the first examples. They paved the way for me to become the human I am today. And even one of my masters, he read the Bible, so it is not unconnected. And mysticism and understanding how the human works, this is real kung fu, people. Everyone who watches this, the nice stuff they do in the movies where they train and everything, you have these training sequences and they have to do horse stance, this is 1% of what kung fu is. This is like yoga when you do the movements. This is the 1% of what yoga means.
Mm.
Kung Fu is your master will guide you through the whole day. He will show you how to eat. He will show you how to behave. He will show how to make eye contact. He will show you how to stand properly. He will show
Right.
you how to walk. He will not only show you Kung Fu, but everything we talked about today was Kung Fu and what Kung Fu really means. And destroying your ego, destroying who you think you were, your conditioned self, and becoming a new version of yourself and seeing new possibilities and new horizons and having hope and being strong and having leadership and having masculinity and having drive. This is real Kung Fu. And that's why I think your visitors will probably, your viewers, and some of my friends maybe even too, will enjoy it a lot.
What brilliant ending. Absolutely fantastic. Right. Listen, I love the way you turned it back round into the Kung Fu, because you're right. It's all Kung Fu. So that's brilliant,
Yes.
Youri. Thank you for that. Thank you very much for your words. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you very much for your wisdom. And thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, Youri. And hopefully I'll see you soon. It was fantastic to reconnect with you after such a long time.
Yes.
It was needed. We've proved it was needed. I absolutely loved every second of it. Thanks a lot, Youri. I appreciate it, mate.
Thank you, brother. It was a blessing.
All right, no worries. I'll see you soon, yeah?
Yes, brother. Thank you.
Nice one. Thanks a lot, Youri. See you later, mate.